So the first dinner is going to be a chicken with a jalapeno bacon cream sauce. So first off, you want to start off with gathering all your ingredients. So you're going to need 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 1 teaspoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of salt, and about 1.5 pounds of chicken tenders. And then for the sauce, you're going to need 3 tablespoons of bacon bits, or you can use bacon, chopped yellow onion, minced garlic, some minced jalapeno peppers, so just one pepper minced, 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, and 3/4 cup of half and half, or you can use heavy cream or whatever kind of cream you want, some fresh cilantro, and some salt and pepper. I want to correct the half and half real quick. Actually, I end up using 1 cup of the half and half. The recipe did call for 3/4 cup, but I end up using 1 cup. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to start marinating your chicken. So you want to take 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 1 teaspoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of salt, and your chicken, and you're going to put it into a Ziploc bag, and you're going to go ahead and let that sit until your chicken comes to room temperature. That's what the recipe says, but I let mine sit for about 15 minutes because I did want this to be a 30-minute meal. So I took mine for about 15 minutes. That way I knew it would take about 15 minutes in my air fryer to cook. So that is how long I let it sit, and it came out really good. So while my chicken is marinating, I'm going to go ahead and chop up all my veggies at one time. So I need some onion here, and then I also need my cilantro and my jalapeno pepper. Now at this point, if you're using bacon, then you want to chop it up into little pieces and go ahead and cook that first in your pan. But if you're using bacon bits like myself, which does cut down on the points a little bit, plus I'm not, a huge fan on chunks of bacon, so I like the bacon bits, then you want to go ahead and just do your onion first, which is what I did. So I am putting my onion in a pan. I did not add any extra oil, but I did end up adding a little bit of water to the pan to saute it up. And then once it started getting all nice and brown on the edges, I went ahead and added in my minced garlic. And I never measure my garlic, but I did about a tablespoon or so. And then I added in a half of the jalapeno pepper. You want to save the other half for later on. And then you just want to go ahead and cook that for a minute or two, just enough to get the jalapeno pepper and the garlic cooked down a little bit. And then you're going to add in your balsamic vinegar, so 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. And then you want to kind of bring that to a boil until it's nice and syrupy. And then you're going to gradually add in your cream. So I went ahead and added it in. And what I ended up doing was I cooked it for too long on high, and it got super thick, and that's why I had to use the extra 1/4 cup. So you may not have to. So you may start out with a 3/4 cup and see how thick your sauce gets. Now, meanwhile, I went ahead and put my chicken in the air fryer and let it start cooking. So I should have started my chicken a little bit earlier and my sauce later. So you want to do your sauce, only takes about 5 minutes. So definitely do your sauce last. That way it doesn't get as thick as mine does. So I went ahead and put my chicken in the air fryer. And then I added in a little bit of pepper to my sauce, and then added in the bacon bits and the cilantro and the rest of the jalapeno pepper and gave that a stir. And then, like I said, I did end up adding a little bit of more cream to this. And here is the final product. So you guys, the flavor of this sauce is outstanding. I think it would be just the same if you use fat-free half and half. I'm not sure how skim milk or almond milk would work on this, but definitely let me know if you end up trying that and let us know how it worked out. But the sauce is so flavorful. I end up using 1/8 cup of the sauce on this chicken. I will have all the points and the recipe and all that down below in the description box. So this next recipe is going to be a spicy zucchini and sausage dish. Honestly, this was a last minute dinner because I forgot to buy some ground beef for a different recipe, and so I had to throw this together. So I have some of these Trader Joe's sun-dried tomato chicken sausages, so I used 2 of those. This is a meal for 1, by the way. I used a half of a can of the diced green chilies. These are like the Rotel. And so I took 2 of the sausages, I cut them up, put them into a pan to saute them until they got nice and crispy. And then I went ahead and added in 2 zucchinis that I had sliced up. And I let those saute up for a little bit, added a little bit of water to the dish and added the lid on there. And then I added in a half of a can of those diced tomatoes, and I just let it cook down until the zucchini was the desired doneness. I like mine with a little bit of crisp to it. And I did end up adding in a little bit of seasoning salt at the end just to add a little bit more flavor, although those Rotel tomatoes add a lot of flavor. And here is the final dish. So this was a dinner for one because no one else wanted to have this type of dinner. But this is a perfect thing. I get a lot of people who say they need, dinners for either one or two people. So this is definitely an example of that. So this recipe only came in at 6 smart points for the 2 sausages. So just depending on what kind of sausage you use will be what the points are going to be. So I will write out this recipe down below in the description box. And the last recipe I'm going to share with you is a Philly cheesesteak bowl. Now I did do a little bit of prep for this. I cut up the peppers and the onions, but even if you don't, it's still a really quick recipe. So what I did was I just put all my peppers and onions into a skillet, add a little bit of water and some seasoning salt, and put a lid on it and just let it cook away. And it takes about 15 minutes for them to cook. So while the peppers and onions were cooking, I took another skillet. I added in a half of a tablespoon of avocado oil, and then I just put my beef in the skillet. Now I am using a shaved beef that I found at my Kroger store, and I have read though in a blog where you can shave your own beef. It was saying like taking a steak, rolling it up, putting it in the freezer, and then you just very quickly before it starts to thaw out, you just start shaving it. I don't know, so you could look into that, or you could see if you can find it, or you could just use steak strips, which is what I've always used in the past. So I had to cook this in batches because the only other skillet I had was a smaller one. So I just cooked up 2 of these packages, which was quite a bit, but I was making some for myself plus my family. And so I cooked up 2 of these packages and just I didn't actually have to add any other oil to the pan, by the way. So while I was cooking the beef, I was periodically stirring the vegetables. So I added in, this is where I added in the seasoning salt and put the lid back on after I stirred it a little bit. And this is what it looks like after about 15 minutes. So they're nice and soft. So I went ahead and turned the burner down to low while I finished up the beef. And now that the beef is all done, I'm going to start adding it in. I actually didn't add in the entire 2 packages in there. I saved some off to the side for somebody else just to use for something. And then I'm adding in 3 tablespoons of this Worcestershire sauce. And then I'm just going to give that a good stir, and it is ready to go. I just really, really love this. Sometimes I add in a steak sauce, but I did not have any steak sauce. But that is another thing I do like to add into my Philly cheesesteak. But I am also doing low sugar this week, and so that usually has quite a bit of sugar. So just keep in mind you could add in some steak sauce to this. It does make a nice addition. And here is my final bowl. I did add on a slice of the ultra thin Sargento provolone cheese, so that was on top. And I just put that under the broiler for a couple of minutes to get the cheese all nice and melty. And it is really super good. I will link the original recipe down below for the Philly cheesesteak sandwiches. This made a lot. I made 6 sandwiches for the family, plus there was enough left over for at least 3 more sandwiches, and then I had my bowl. So super good. Highly recommend this super easy weeknight dinner.
I see the light inside your eyes. You make me feel like